Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. The 100-year life. Just say it out loud to yourself for a second. The 100-year life. It's not just a title, it's literally a sentence you have to live inside. Welcome. Today we're unpacking a really profound masterclass based on the book by Linda Gratton and Andrew Scott. Now, as someone who loves diving into life optimization and productivity hacks, I usually come at these things with a lot of pep. But today, we need to take a more measured, weighty approach. Because Linda Gratton and Andrew Scott haven't written some cheerful, breezy retirement guide here. No, they've written a strategic autopsy of the old clock we're all still running on. This explainer is all about confronting the hidden debt that is actively accumulating in your current pace of life.
You see, the 100-year life is absolutely not about getting old. It's about the architecture of the self. We're so used to asking ourselves how long we can keep our current life going, right? But I want to challenge you right now to audit your foundation. Ask yourself, what is this current life quietly breaking? It's a heavy question, I know, but it's totally necessary. Because if we are actually going to live to 100, the strategies that work perfectly for a 70-year lifespan basically become a trap. And this quote brilliantly illustrates the core issue. Linda Gratton and Andrew Scott write, "A longer life does not make a larger self. It just makes the old self face a much longer audit." Here's the first real reality slap of our explainer. You keep tuning the next 5 years of your life. You optimize, you push, you strategize for the near term. But temporal discounting means your future is paying in full. Your body pays with sleep. Your friends pay with silence. The life you've optimized for the short term becomes a life you literally cannot inhabit in the long term.
So, let's move to how this all builds up. Think of this as the wound. The old model was pretty neat. It had 3 simple rooms: learn, work, and retire. Each room had a door, and each door had a clear name. But here is the massive problem with a longer life. That antiquated 3-stage life script fails quietly way before it fails publicly. We've inherited a sequence that was designed for significantly shorter lives, and we're trying to stretch it across an entire century. Think of a moment when you defended a career path simply because you'd already walked it for so long. Hold on to that memory. We are trained to build a linear career, climbing a single ladder until our hands bleed, and then calling that blood proof of our dedication. But what you actually need is a rooted ecology. Highly intelligent people often weaponize their intellect to delay necessary transitions. They overthink the turn. They underbuild the bridge. They defend a linear career when they really should be planting a rooted ecology. So how do we fix that? Gratton and Scott clinically audit what actually keeps a life alive. We are so obsessed with tangible assets like money and property, but it's the intangible assets that are your true load-bearing infrastructure: your health, skills, relationships, reputation, and your adaptability. If you're spending your vitality to acquire visible proof of success, like a fatter bank account or a fancy job title, that is a critical design failure. Your vitality isn't a reward you get after you succeed. It is the machinery of the life itself. A career can be drawn as a line. An ecology has roots. It has weather. It has seasons that do not ask for your permission. Your body keeps a really harsh ledger of your sacrifices. It doesn't care what you call the late nights or the missed weekends. It just records the inflammation and the distance. So if you're feeling depleted, know this: exhaustion is not weak will. It is bad design. What would you stop defending if the old script lost its throne? Just feel the hidden cost of staying in a role simply because quitting feels wasteful. That sunk cost isn't just money. It's the face you wear for people who stopped looking a long time ago. A plan can be totally wrong and still feel loyal. That kind of wound doesn't announce itself with a dramatic crash either. It shows up as a flat, uninspired mourning. It shows up as unplaced envy, or even contempt for people who are still out there trying. Now, the transition to a multi-stage life sounds incredibly liberating from far away, but up close, it's terrifying. Why? Because the pain isn't the transition itself. The pain is demotion without witness. So many incredibly bright people freeze right here. They can handle incredible amounts of effort, but they just cannot handle becoming a beginner again. They fear taking the lower chair. They fear having the slow answer. But to survive a longer horizon, you absolutely must be willing to lose status on purpose. One life seeks one peak, but the multi-stage life learns to descend without shame. To make that descent, you need transformational assets. These are resources like learning a new language, building a new network of allies, or having some financial slack that actually give you the capacity to change. Because transformation has an operating cost. If you enter a major life disruption with no language, no allies, and no slack, the future arrives as violence. But if you've actively built these assets, the future arrives as training.
I want you to visualize something profound with me right now. Picture a transparent rib cage, and it's filled with calendar pages. Each page rises and falls exactly like breath. Some pages are payslips, some are train tickets to a city where no one knows your name. This is the anatomical reality of strategy. We hold on to this image because planning a 100-year life isn't just some spreadsheet exercise. It's a physical rhythm. It lives inside the body.
A thought is not yours until it changes posture. This quote really locks it all in. Self-mastery must be a physical discipline, not just a public spectacle. The descent, the reinvention, it's not about public drama or getting applause for your big life pivot on social media. It's about private courage and quiet maintenance. Spectacle burns out. Maintenance repairs. It's the private courage to buy a notebook, make one difficult phone call, and finally tell the truth about what isn't working. We're shifting from theory to structural reality now. Here is the turn. Hope is just waiting for a better decade. Architecture is actively changing the load-bearing wall. Hope is passive. It leaves you completely vulnerable to the changing tides. Architecture, on the other hand, means you stop asking for one final neat answer to your life's path and you start building structurally sound alternatives.
So the absolutely crucial point here is option value. Option value isn't dithering or being indecisive. It is stored freedom. It means deliberately keeping more than one credible path open. You have to build spare bridges and exits way before crisis and resentment force your hand. Take the course before you're completely burnt out. Make younger friends before isolation sets in. Save up for a pivot before your pride desperately needs rescuing. And this is such a vital refinement from the book, Build a Life That Can Be Interrupted Without Being Ruined. Rest must be completely reframed. In the old model, rest was just a collapse after success. You work until you drop. But in the multi-stage life, rest is the deliberate renewal of your assets. Think of it like music. Music doesn't gain its force by filling every single beat. The rest is what gives the note its body. Your life works exactly the same way.
Here is a really surgical question for you to chew on. What future self would thank you for making things awkward right now? This question cuts the glamour right out of discipline. A better decade doesn't begin with some cinematic training montage. It usually begins as one dull, load-bearing repair. It means stripping away all the noise, the mood, and the posture, and taking one solid action today that fiercely protects your freedom tomorrow. Let's look at a biological parallel as we reach our resolution here. The body lives by turnover. Cells survive by repair, by exchange, and honestly, by the right death of old parts. A body that literally never changes isn't healthy. It's dead. The exact same goes for your identity. A self that refuses renewal is practicing decay, but cleverly disguising it as loyalty. Do not be loyal to a version of yourself that is no longer structurally sound for the decades ahead. So here are your final directives to build what we can call a jointed identity, a self that bends and keeps its grip, rather than a rigid self that just snaps clean in half under pressure. First, cut one false duty. Second, build one new asset. And third, leave one door unlatched. A long life is not some prize you get for good discipline. It is simply a wide open field that will relentlessly expose the limits of your design. If your plans sound really clever on paper, but your body is screaming no, it's time to do the work. The hidden capital was never only wealth. It was always your capacity to become something new without self-betrayal. Continue the internal transformation and access your personal growth map at upgowise.com. Carry that transparent rib cage with you. Breathe with it. I'm going to leave you with this permanent truth to anchor everything we've explored today. It's a thought to just sit with in the quiet of your own room. Long lives punish short identities.